really, like Kathy said, did so much for the neighborhood. Was one of the really founding people that got our POA up and going, and he was all about community, and so he would just be delighted to see this. Mike, if you will start off, and then Craig, will you follow Mike? And Chuck, maybe you follow Craig, and then anyone else that would like to say a few words, please just stand up and do that. We would all love to hear that.
Okay, my name is Mike Shirley, and I hang out with Robin for a number of years. And when she asked if I would be willing to speak, I said I'd be honored to, for a variety of reasons. First of all, Steve and Ruby were the first folks in this neighborhood to say hello to us when we moved in about 5 years ago. And those that knew Steve really well for a long time know this better than I do. But I've never met a person who was friendlier and always had a smile regardless of his circumstance. And to suggest that he was welcoming is the greatest understatement you could offer. He was also providing some incredible leadership. We moved in after much of the heavy lifting had been done by Steve, by Craig, by Chuck, Larry, others, taking this from the developer to what it is we have now with a POA that's very committed to having a quality of life here in a community. And that doesn't just happen, it requires a special skill set. And I can't imagine anyone better equipped than Steve to be able to maneuver working both with this community and then those people called lawyers and the bureaucracy to make good things happen. So what an incredible man. But I wanted to share one other quick thought, which was a little more personal. He and I shared several loves, I suppose. One was history. That was my undergraduate area, even though I spent my professional career in a university setting, dealing with accountants and marketeers and other college and business types. But he loved history, and so we had a common thing we could talk about, and always did. He knew a lot about this place, Southwest Missouri. I didn't. I'm not from here. So that was always fun for me to hear from him. Then we joined a similar club. He decided to break his leg after I had broken mine. And that's a pretty tight club. Not many people get to join that club. And we did that together proudly. He made me smile because he said, Mike, when I did that, I got to tell you, I cried like a baby.
Like a woman.
He goes, did he say like a woman?
I cried like a woman.
Well, Robin, I was really trying to but I do know this. It does hurt. It does hurt. He was a kind gentleman. And I can't think of anybody else that would better reflect the spirit that we want to reflect in this community than Steve. And so to have this tree, to have this plaque, to be here in perpetuity, means Steve's spirit is going to be here in perpetuity. And so I think it's such a neat thing. And Ruby, and to all of your family, what a great and gentle man he was, and how blessed we were to be able to call him our friend and our neighbor. So on behalf of all the neighborhood, we were just so delighted to have Steve here, and we'll always keep him in our hearts. So,
that's going to be hard to follow. I've got a teleprompter here. I want to make sure I said we got some facts down as I go into this. I would like to say that Steve was, he was a very special friend of mine. And I didn't want to do this as far as get emotional, but you can't help when you love a man like I do, Steve.
he was so dedicated and so concerned about making this what we have today. And without him doing what he did, we would have had probably a lot of problems more on our plate than what we got on our normal day-to-day operation of the POA. So over the years, Steve and I developed a real close friendship. We learned that we both were Alabama fans. His roots started in Alabama and eventually made it up this way in this neck of the woods. And we talked Alabama, about Alabama football a lot. And we just, we just got in the car and did things that Steve felt necessary we had to get done to get this thing to where we are today. And so that being said, let me go ahead and use my Hill prompter here. Steve was very instrumental in implementing the transfer of legal ownership from the original developer, Jack Eisenberger, to our POA. It all began back in February of 2011 with numerous meetings that were held at Steve and Ruby's home, with the creation of an ad hoc committee which consisted of Wayne Harrison, Don Herder, Karen Trimble, Damon Beckwith, myself, Steve. Later on, Chuck over here to my left, he kind of joined in with that group. And the meetings were to discuss and implement the process of getting this ownership legally over to the POA that we know as of today. Finally, on September 22nd, 2011, the first meeting was held at this clubhouse, and the membership voted and adopted the bylaws for our association. Steve was elected to the board in January of 2012 and served as our president until January of 2015. During his term as president, Steve spent countless hours in meetings with our attorney, drafting and implementing the 3 amendments to our covenants to legally include the homeowners in phases 3, 4, and 5 as part of our POA. This process also included meetings with the Ozark City government, school district, developer, at that time, Brian Hayes, for the back part, not the original one. Steve was unselfish and volunteering to help other members on our 3 committees when work needed to be done. Always willing to step forward. Even after his term as president, he volunteered to implement a quarterly newsletter for our membership until his health dictated otherwise. The board agreed to plant this tree in memory of our great neighbor who cared deeply about our POA. Ruby, we want you to know that this tree was planted in his memory and our appreciation for Steve's dedication over the past few years to our Grand Haven POA. I feel that those of us that were fortunate enough to have known and worked with Steve will never forget him.
He would be very humble, though, and say, you and also others deserve a tree too.
My name is Chuck Doan. We're my wife Connie. We are at the end of 19th Avenue here, and we're right across from the yellow rose of Texas, Fonda. And we have been here since 2005, and you will never, ever meet, I'm afraid, we all had the honor while we had the chance to meet Steve, or even a person close to him. He stood tall, even though he wasn't a tall person. And when I went out to choose that tree there, we had concerns about it being growing too tall and maybe falling on the clubhouse here. So, due to the weather that we get here, that can be different. So
I said, well, it'll be about 80 feet tall. So we decided to put it out there, come across the parking lot.
Just fall apart.
However tall that tree gets, it still will not surpass Steve's height. He was very instrumental in getting this association going and on the right foot. He never was discouraged, Steve. Always relentlessly going after the right solution. And we were fortunate to have some wonderful people to step up with us. So, and Craig, we may have to come back and get one Alabama tree and put it out there.
One tree's fine.
But, I just wanted you all to really look at that plaque out there for him and think about what a person could do and what he did do. And if you have the chance to recruit somebody as a volunteer, please let them step up or put a gun to it. So, thank you very much for allowing me to speak, even though I wasn't ready.
Is there anyone else that would like to say some words?
Oh, I want to say something. I'm Kathy Page, and I'm Steve's sister-in-law, one of them. And for 49 years, Stephen was my brother-in-law. And I couldn't have married into a better family. It's amazing. They got the short end of it, but I came out pretty well. And I'm married to his older brother, Jim, and Jim and Steve were very, very close. Very close. And then there's another brother. And I know it's hard to think that there could be someone older than this man, but there's actually an older one down in Florida, near Orlando. He and his wife Coca taught school in Muscatine, Iowa, which would be near the Quad Cities, for their careers. And when they retired, they decided they wanted to be warm. So that's what they did. They moved to Florida. But Stephen always called me his partner, and we were partners because we played games. We loved family games, and I was his partner, and we kind of drove everybody nuts. We play a game called Sequence, and Stephen and I would burst into hymns, but I would know the first 3 or 4 words, and Stephen might fill in the rest of it, or we would just hum. And, even his mother, when she was alive, would just go berserk. But even with that distraction, we rarely won. We didn't win, but yet we had a sort of victory because, but he actually, along with Jim, who was very big in helping, got me through a cancer episode in 2008 and 9, where I didn't think or plan to be here anymore. And their positive attitude and babying me along, and Stephen calling me his partner. That's what did it. Thank you for what you've done.
I'd like to say just something very briefly. I am Steve's cousin, Haven Miller, and I have known Stephen my entire life because he's a little older than me. And I just want to tell you that you reflected tonight what I've known my whole life. And I thank you so much for what you've done here tonight and said, and the planting of this beautiful tree. And you already know the fine people that Steve and Ruby and Amy and their entire family is. So thank you so very much.
Well, I guess I should should say something since I'm the old codger and knew him for all of his 69 years plus. If you look through the picture album over there that Ruby's put together, you'll notice there's 2 other people in it. Steve's the cute one. He was cute no matter what. But no, he was a wonderful, wonderful person, as you people know. Despite what my older brother Bob and I did to him, he turned out pretty good. We had a lot of fun with Steve. I remember one time whenever, I don't know, I can't remember how old he was, but Bob came up to him one day and said, "Here," he says, "I'll trade you all these pennies because they're bigger than dimes and they're worth more." And Steve fell for it. And I was a little bit disgusted because the only thing I could do was give him nickels for it. And somebody here a few months ago I was telling a story to, and they said, "Well, how long did it take Steve to get on, to get on with the fact that you were doing that to him?" I paused a while, scratched my head, and I said, "Oh, I think he finally caught on about a year or so ago." So anyway, he was a wonderful, wonderful person, and he affected you people's lives. But of the thousands and thousands of students that he had there at Marshfield, teaching for the years he did, had a really, really big influence on many people's lives. And hopefully, as you people said, hopefully your efforts and whatever you do will kind of reflect as far as what he's done. He was a great person. Miss him.
I'll say a few words. My name is David Doyle. I had the privilege to meet Steve for the first time in October 2015, so very different from everybody else's story here. But I started coming to the club meetings because I had purchased some property and was building a house on phase 4 of the subdivision. He was the very first person I talked to. He greeted me. Again, as everybody said, he never knew a stranger. I think one thing that we would be remiss in not saying is, I left here and I went and I told Sally, I'm like, man, he exemplified Jesus Christ. I was like, I don't even have to ask him. And that's just how he was. He wasn't trying to evangelize me or anything. And I'm a believer. But just that sweet fellowship, and just a short time that I got to know him. But I was very blessed by him, and just his spirit, and he never. I think he said one time when he said, "Why me?" and then he said, "No, not why me. Why not me?" And just I was going through some issues with our building, and he would always kind of pull me back out of my pity party and help me get some perspective, and he was just this great guy, and we'll for sure miss him. So thank you.
I'm Rita Thornton.
You have to speak up.
Craig was the first person that I met here in the garage sale, the community garage sale. I was walking around with my granddaughter and her husband, and I met Craig. And within 30 minutes of meeting Craig, I was already home, and Steve and Ruby came to my door to welcome me to the community. And they stayed and visited and talked. And like everybody else has shared, you can't meet Steve without knowing that he was just a quality, strong character, full of integrity person, kind and gentle and giving. always ready to help someone. And Steve and Ruby both helped me sometimes. And I just can't imagine knowing a better person than Steve. And he really is missed. And at his service, I did get to speak to some of the students that he had, and it was just over the top amazing to hear the things that they had to say about Steve and the impact of how many lives he's touched. He was just a gifted person in every way. Thank you.
The underlying thing that everybody's saying is that Steve listened to you as an individual wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later could tell you everything that you said to him.
Yeah.
He never forgot who my brother was, who my sister was, whatever was going on with you as an individual.
Yeah.
He made you feel you were important. And I think that's why you felt loved by him.
I'm Greg Brock. I've been Amy's boyfriend companion for 12 years now, and I had no idea Steve was involved in all this stuff because he never bragged, for one thing, and he was always him and Ruby got me up to the Mayo Clinic 2 times for some severe medical issues, and anyone who's had to travel up that far north knows it's not easy. Plus, when you're dealing with medical stuff, and seeing that how he helped put all this together and the great things you people have to say about him, we definitely notice he's not here. I mean, the things he could always do and just come by, he always just seemed to know when somebody needed something. You didn't have to ask him.
I'll say something real quick. My name's Dash Singleton. I've been fortunate. We moved to this neighborhood back in 06. And then just a couple, 2-3 years ago, we actually moved into another house in this neighborhood because we love this neighborhood so much. We needed a bigger place. We had another kiddo, and my wife homeschools my boys, so we need some more room. From here with no kids to now 3 kids and a growing family, which has been awesome. But when we relocated into the back of the neighborhood, we actually moved right behind Steve and Ruby. And I think everything that everybody said here has been really spot on. And I just wanted to share also that I have 2 younger boys. They're going to be 9 and 7 here shortly. And I remember when Steve first met them, and they of course have been harassing Ruby and Steve for a long time, running over in the backyard, throwing footballs over there. But I'll never forget Steve getting down on one knee and talking to those boys like they were human beings. And so often adults don't talk to kids, and something I recognized right off is that he said hi to them, he asked them their name, wanted to find out how they were doing. And it was cool. Every time he would just interact with them, they'd stop by the house, and Steve would always ask Summit how he was doing, get down on his level and just look him in the eye. My boys were very sad when we told them what had happened, and it was the first person that they really knew that has passed away. And we had this great conversation because, as you had mentioned before, you can't meet Steve and not know that he was a believer. And so, and we are as well. And so to be able to have a great conversation with them about him now being in the arms of his Father in heaven was a really beautiful thing for us to be able to talk to our kids about. So that was a great connection, and really going to miss him. He's just an awesome guy. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
I want to thank Dash and the board for honoring him this way with a memorial tree and a plaque. And thanks to all of you for coming and all of your kind remarks.
Steve certainly encouraged fellowship with cookies, and that's we have some of those here as well, so we might just move in that direction.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure as hell, look at